Good morning, everyone. Les asked me to share with you some information about Governor Cuomo's new tax-free program, Startup New York. I will tell you that Les has prepared one of the best takeaways that I've seen relative to a particular subject. I urge you to pick up these two pieces of paper before you leave. It'll give you all of the technical information that you need about Startup New York. And since you have that available to you, I'd like to just discuss with you some of the nuance with regard to the program. Governor Cuomo recognized that New York State has lost a lot of what I call the tech transfer economy, that people come out of the research-oriented academic institutions around the state. They come out with ideas, they come out with startups, and they go elsewhere to accomplish it. To the extent that they do start in New York State, overwhelming majority will relocate those startup companies after the first year. And they do go to places like Texas where they do not have the tax levels that we have here in New York, or in fact, they are without taxation in an awful lot of the areas that we address in the commercial sector, the private sector of business. As a result, Tax-Free New York was the original concept name under which this was created. And the idea was to give the folks coming out of these academic institutions and companies from out of state a place to be housed in New York where they could enjoy the same tax-free status that they could get in other parts of the country. It has since been expanded. It is now known as Startup New York. It also involves spin-offs from existing New York State companies that was not in the original plan. If a company can show that they're coming out with a new line, a new product, a new service, and the hires for that will be new, not just transfers from an existing location, they too can be considered for inclusion in a startup zone. Basically what those zones are, if you are able to locate on a state university campus, you can operate for 10 years without any taxation. Now, that doesn't include federal tax. We're only talking state taxes now. But it also includes state income tax. It is a rather unique program for New York State. It's going to have some challenge. As many of you may be aware, it's one thing to pass legislation. It's another thing to wait to see what the regs look like after they are drafted relative to that legislation. We haven't gotten the regulations yet. And so there are some things that will be addressed, such as, does every venue to which someone looks to locate, must it be owned by the academic institution? Obviously, if it's on the campus, that's not an issue. But this plan also allows for people to go a mile out and even further. Empire State Development has the flexibility to allow companies to locate beyond the 1 mile radius of the campus. Does the venue at which they'll be housed, does it have to be owned by the academic institution, or could it be a lease? That's something that's being addressed. The project has to align with the mission of the academic institution. Well, broadly speaking, the State University of New York is committed to educating our young people. That's the basic mission. There are some core specifics at some of these institutions, and that's really what we are looking at, because Governor Cuomo has sort of changed the mission of the SUNY system. It's not just about education. It's also about commercialization. It's not just about teaching people what they need so that they could be successful in life, but it's also giving them a venue that's connected with the institution that will help them do that. That's a revolutionary change for the SUNY system, and obviously there are going to be some regs with regard to that. A gentleman who was very instrumental in developing this program was a deputy for the governor, and he has since moved over to work with Chancellor Nancy Zimpher, and he will be overseeing this program. So somebody who was very instrumental in developing the program is going to have the hands-on responsibility for seeing that it succeeds, and obviously he'll be working with the legislature in the development of the regulations, and that's something that you can take away as a positive. There are some exclusions as to the types of companies that can be accommodated. Generally speaking, retail, wholesale, and restaurants are not included. They would not be eligible. But I want to share with you that in the legislation, as originally discussed, there was a longer list. And so the potential for exclusion could also include personal services, hospitality, real estate, law firms, medical and dental practices, finance and financial services, accounting firms, utilities, and businesses providing administrative support. The idea for this was tech transfer. To take those initiatives that involve the new technologies and to give them a place to flourish in New York State. And that, of course, would include the clean technologies that you folks are so involved with. So I look forward to 2014 and the implementation of the startup program. I think it's going to offer tremendous opportunity for startups, for companies that have spin-offs that would qualify, and certainly for out-of-state firms who are looking for places to locate. New York State becomes just a more favorable venue for them to look at. And so if any of you have the opportunity to perhaps participate in the program, we look forward to working with you. As Les said, I happen to be a voting member of the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council, and we would love to see as many companies as possible come to our campuses and be part of Startup New York. Thanks. Thanks, Les.